Okay, Michelle, I'm ready when you are.
Go for it, Paul.
Okay, so welcome everybody. It's actually nice to have the discussion up front and just kind of get to hear from you guys a little bit and sort of meet. Um, I'm really excited to do this. One of the things as someone who's an adjunct and also in private practice, kind of sole proprietor, private behavioral health practice, I don't necessarily kind of get a whole lot of opportunities to engage with peers like you guys, colleagues like you guys from particularly outside of school social work. So it's really, I'm really excited to be able to interact with you guys and kind of just have an opportunity to kind of meet folks from the broader UMB community. So this is going to be, and the reason why I worded this the way I did, sorry for the long title, is that this is really a lot of this is very kind of just me experimenting. I have been teaching hybrid and asynchronous courses for a number of years. My total teaching time um, has been about, I guess, 5 or 6 years. Um, and But the clinical aspect of this and the two clinical courses I mentioned, both of those were not planned to be, at least for me, weren't planned to be online or even hybrid courses. They were in full in-person, traditional in-person courses that I had to create asynchronous versions of. In the case of psychopathology, I had to do that literally mid-semester in the last spring. So um, just very quickly, I'm a alumnus of the School of Social Work myself, and have been social worker in I guess it's coming up on my 25th anniversary of graduation from School of Social Work, and had already been working for a while. Even in undergrad, I was doing social work stuff, working in hospitals, that kind of thing. So probably a total of 30 years of social work, healthcare, clinical experience of some sort or another. I've also worked in macro settings. I got to work at National Institutes of Health for a little while. Got to work at DoD at the VA for there's a chunk of my life where I was doing program project management and federal healthcare programs, and then the last 5 or 6 years has been mostly just teaching and my own practice. So the image you see there is just a banner from my from the front page of my website, from the splash page of my website for my practice, just so you can see what that looks like. So there's two things I'm going to focus on here. One is something I had been working on before COVID, which was creating what I call kind of a course welcome package. And so this is a video that's a little bit longer for the students than I might normally do, and I'll talk about that in a second. Um, and it's one that I reuse for all the courses. So it's almost more like a program welcome package. So it's a welcome to that particular course, but it's also for students who are taking me for the first time. It's kind of a welcome to my class and well, our class really, and kind of a little bit of not just my background, but why I'm here, why I'm teaching, why I'm passionate about social work, why I'm passionate about teaching social work. And we'll talk about that a little bit more and play you a little kind of montage from that. The one thing I'll say, and I think Kathleen, you were the one who was bringing it up about the clips, the way to kind of the way the kind of asynchronous online lectures work in a way that doesn't necessarily lose them in the asynchronous format is that they can kind of pause it and pick it up. So it's kind of it's and I'll tell them it resembles kind of like a streaming service, like a Netflix or an Amazon Prime, where they can watch something, pause it, come back to where they left off. They can start it on their laptop, and they can and then they can swap. They can pick it back up on their phone. They can listen to some. They can take their phone and play it from their phone in their car, so they can listen to some of it while they're driving. So that kind of helps mitigate hey, I don't want to sit and watch a long video. And so as far as I can tell. And then, in addition to the course welcome package, I'm also going to just show you some examples of, again, it's really not like, hey, I know exactly how to do this, I'm an expert or anything. It's really just tinkering around, trying to find dynamic and novel ways to present content to students. And so I just basically pulled some of the examples of some of the stuff that seemed to work from my vantage point, and that'll easily take up the remainder of our time. So I'm also going to keep an eye on the time here. So creating a course welcome package. Um, so this video, the total video is about 40 minutes long. Again, and I put it out there, by the way. I try to get the Blackboard available to them a minimum of a week prior to start of classes. Um, closer to 10 days or 2 weeks is actually optimal. So they have time on their own to kind of log in, peruse the Blackboard page, the Blackboard classroom, and kind of start this course welcome package. And again, they can watch for 15 minutes, pause it, come back later, watch another 15 minutes of it. So some of the elements in here are just personal introduction, talking about different experiences in social work. For me, I've just been, more by happenstance and design, very blessed to have a very wide a range of different social work experiences over the past 25, 30 years. And so talk a little bit about that. Also talk about why I'm here. Why am I still passionate about social work 25 years later? Why is it kind of cathartic for me to come back and teach, to stand in front of the students who are sitting in literally the same seats I sat in, although maybe they've updated the furniture, but that literally sat in the same classrooms that they did, now some time ago. The other part of this is also it's kind of putting myself out there in part to encourage them to do the same. So I have a discussion. Most people do this. This part isn't that novel, but there's a discussion board here where they can go and they introduce themselves in the online form. The form is set up, and then not that you really have to do anything special with this, that they can record their own. If they want to do a video introduction for themselves, they're welcome and encouraged to do so. So they can just do it in Zoom or some other application that they're comfortable with, and they can just put a link in there and they can do that. To date, most students still just type out an introduction, but some will avail themselves of a video or audio introduction. They'll just put the link in there, and then myself and students can click on the link. I do make sure that I go in and I respond to each introduction, which can take some time because some of these classes are 25 to, on average, 25 to 30 students. But I will go in and I'll just reflect on their introduction, and just so that each of them get that personal response. Okay? And then they can read. This is an open forum, so they can read each other's responses and my responses to them and that kind of thing. So again, this is just something that I kind of stumbled upon and found that not just the particular video, but the concept seemed to work well, and that is to kind of a welcome from a notable figure in the field of social work. So in this case, I found this video from Debbie Stabenow, who is a senator from Michigan. She is a social worker, and to my knowledge, the only social worker, maybe even in Congress, but certainly I think the only social worker in the Senate. So she has a video that is freely available on YouTube that was probably something from an NASW meeting that she might have participated in. But it's just kind of a nice, hey, here's why I'm passionate about social work, and kind of a glad you're passionate about social work too type of message. And I'll play you a little clip of that in my intro package montage that I made for you. So within the video, which is kind of me talking about myself, social work, my passion for social work, passion for teaching, is kind of my own interpretation of some of the key elements of social work and the School of Social Work at UMB. And so this is not this is something that I'll kind of sit and ponder. I'll think about while I'm out walking the dog, and so it's not something that I kind of put together in one thing. This was something that I worked on, kind of kind of storyboarded for some time before I actually produced it. So for me, what I came up with were empathy, social determinants of health, and respect and dignity. So these are kind of basic elements of social work, or at least for me, basic elements of social work. And then there's a video within the lecture video to kind of provide illustrations of what those concepts mean to me as an offering to them, right? So for each one of them, these things are going to mean slightly different things, or things, kind of they're going to perceive it in their own unique way. This is my own unique perception of these concepts as an offering to them so they can formulate their own thoughts and feelings about these concepts as social work students. So with that, I'm going to switch over here. So what I've done is I've queued up the clips. All my recordings have been done, and I don't know how much you guys care about the technical aspects of this. I found Zoom has worked the best. I've also done a lot of work in VoiceThread, but I've kind of migrated over to the Zoom recorded webcast functionality. Neither one of them are optimal. There's definitely a lot to go. There's other products out there, and I don't know if I'll have time to get into that. But for these days, I'm using mostly Zoom. So this is a montage from that course introduction video. Okay, so here we go.
So welcome everyone. I've decided to make a video that's particularly special. So as I've been teaching in person for a number of years, and then the last year or two, I've taught some hybrid courses and taught online, and now everything's online, at least for now. I have these videos. I've added a kind of, or cultivated a set of videos over the past number of years to kind of just introduce some of the themes of the courses, all the courses I teach that are important to me, and I hope are really kind of consistent with our social work values and our mission and vision and principles. And also, this is a video to kind of substitute that time where we meet in person for the first time and sit down and kind of give you a little bit of my background and get to go around the room and get hear from each of you and your backgrounds and what brings you here, school of social work. So, but since I came across the video, I found just a nice kind of welcome message to school of social work, especially if this is your foundation year and you're just starting in the program. If you've seen this video in my other classes, feel free to fast forward. But let me play this for you, and I'm gonna watch it with you.
Help them. After a while, the question is, why is it at this particular place that we are seeing this happen to people? Once you ask that question, you are involved in advocacy and public policy. That's what that means, taking what we know as individuals and telling that story and looking for change in the broader world around us to make a difference for everyone. We need you. Thanks for what you do.
And that is the ability to see the world, or to do the best you can to see the world through someone else's eyes, and to convey that you are attempting to do that. And the more kind of diverse or different that person is from you, the more important that empathy is. But it's so important for everybody, and for me, it's equally important in macro and advocacy as it is in clinical work. in kind of a very methodical way some of the some of the primary forms of social determinants of health. So this one's a little bit longer, but I think you'll find it a good summary of social determinants of health.
All of the different roadblocks to healthcare are magnified when a patient has a complex life and complex health needs, which can become a vicious cycle. Low-income Coloradans have fewer resources to manage their health care and are more likely to suffer from multiple chronic conditions than upper-income Coloradans. Then, things like missed appointments, confusion about care instructions, and unfilled prescriptions all contribute to a decline in health, which becomes even harder to manage.
One of the hallmarks of a complex patient is simply having more than one chronic illness. They have diabetes, hypertension, and thyroid disease. Layered on top of that, they may also have morbid obesity. Layered on top of that, they may also have limited resources, no insurance provider. Layered on top of that, they may also have mental health issues. As a clinician, as a physician, it really involves recognizing that no one person can take on 6 steps of change all at once.
I want what I earn. I want my respect. I want my dignity. Give me that. And if you're not going to give it to me, don't deny it from me.
Yep.
That's all I'm asking.
I got it.
That's all we asking that's all we asking at, be it minorities, be it Black or Latino, be it women, be it the LBG community. That's all we ask. We're asking for our respect and our dignity. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less.
I love it.
So anyway, there's lots of good content like that I know around the web and YouTube, etc. That's just what really just, as I look for something to kind of just reflect upon our times, as well as our social work values around structural oppression and racism and respect and dignity.
Okay, so that's just like I said, a montage from that course introduction package. All right, so watching the time, I'm going to try to move quickly through a couple other quick examples. There's also a kind of part of the first lecture this is from the Advanced Clinical Interventions, the theory class, and so what I put in that first recorded lecture was a kind of reflection of what I got out of reading this text. So I had gotten asked to teach this class last fall. So that summer I read the book and built the entire course after reading the book. And so I talked about how one of the things that I got out of that book was a reminder in how all these different theories are kind of like a toolbox, and that we, over time, as we refine our clinical skills, we pull from these all the time, and sometimes without even, kind of thinking about, oh, well, I'm using this theory here with this in this context, clinical context, rather than versus this idea of, well, I'm a psychoanalytic person, or I'm a CBT, a cognitive behavioral therapy person, and that's what I do, and that there's this idea of sort of this dogmatic relationship to one particular theory. What I got out of reading that text was a reminder that all these theories have validity, and the trick is really about using them fluidly as needed in each unique individual clinical context. Okay, so some other examples. This is from the theory class, and so this is family emotional systems theory. And so what I was trying to provide an illustration for here was the kind of abstract concepts of emotional cutoff and also emotional reconciliation, sometimes generationally, but always within the context of a family unit. So I came across this video of George Takei, who's an actor, a playwright, and also an advocate for the Asian American community as well as the LGBTQ community. And this is an illustration of him in a memory of his father that spoke to this kind of emotional cutoff and reconciliation later.
This clip that I found, I thought just really was a kind of touching and kind of reflects the complexities of emotional cutoff and especially in the generational context. So anyway, it's a very short clip, but I just found it spot on in terms of emotional cutoff and those kind of intergenerational conflicts. So here you go.
Is it the final scene in Allegiance where you deliver this monologue and it's an apology to your father? What do you say?
As a teenager, I became very interested in my childhood internment because the history books that I read, the civics books that I read, talked about the shining ideals of our American democracy. And so we had many, many discussions on that. And I was inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King at that time. I was an idealistic young teenager, and idealistic teenagers can be very arrogant at times. And when our discussion got heated one night, I said, "Daddy, you led us like sheep to slaughter into the internment camp." And suddenly my father was silent. That give and take stopped. And I knew immediately I had touched a nerve. This man who suffered so much, and after the internment, worked his fingers to the bones to get back on our feet. This man who sacrificed and suffered so much, I had hurt, and I felt terribly. My father looked at me and said, "Well, maybe you're right." And he got up and went into the bedroom and closed the door. I wanted to go and knock on the door and apologize, but it felt awkward, so I didn't.
So
I thought
all
I'd
these
do it
years
the
later.
following morning. It was even more awkward then, and I never did. And so I'm using my memory of that discussion to
Each and every
apologize to
night
my
here on
father
Broadway.
8 times a week.
Incredible.
Okay, so moving on to the next one. I'm sorry, I'm moving a little quickly to watch the time. So here's an example of not just a first-person perspective of illness, switching over to the diagnostics course. And in this particular case, or the next two, the final two clips are related to substance-related disorders from the DSM. I came across, again, just spending time doing video curation, and I came across two musicians talking about their own experiences with cocaine addiction. One being Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac, and the other being Flavor Flav from Public Enemy. And I was fascinated by not just the diversity of their cocaine addiction experiences, but also some of the similarities that came out of those two videos. So I'm going to show you a little clip from this, which is also an edited for time clip. Okay.
It would just give you a little bit and you'd be like, oh, cool, I have a little energy now. And that was really what it was. So then you have a hit of Coke and then you're too nervous. And then you're too nervous, so then you say, well, then I'll have a little shot of brandy. And then you feel like maybe you're a little teeny bit drunk. And then, so you'll have another hit of Coke because then that's gonna make you not so drunk. So, and being done. And a lot of money being spent. Gazillions of dollars. I can remember thinking to myself at that point, wow, who knew 4 years ago that, that I would even be a part of anything that was this stupid.
Okay. So last one.
It would just give you a little bit and you'd be like, oh.
Sorry about that. Okay. So last one, this is also in keeping with the substance-related and addictive disorders section of my diagnostics class. So I like to read, and I tend to these days read a lot of biographies, and sometimes I'll be reading a biography, just for fun, and I'll come across something like, oh, that might be actually useful. in a class. And so in this last clip, what I did was I actually read an excerpt of this book to the students as part of the recorded lecture, again, just as a kind of experimenting with novel ways to bring content to students. So here you go.
Hey, so I was looking for a video, kind of a first-person account of alcohol use disorder, and after kind of doing some curation for a little while, not really finding anything I like, thought I'd do something a little bit different for you guys. So as I was working on this, I recalled a passage from a book, a detailed biography of Robin Williams. I know we've listened to him before in the class. So let me read you, just to give you kind of something a little bit different in terms of methods of learning. Let me read you just a very small excerpt about the time when she relapsed to alcohol after being sober for a number of years. So he writes about being on location in Alaska for a movie. Not really, I forget which one it is, not one of his bigger ones. But anyway, here's from the biography. Having nothing but time and empty space to contemplate, Robin retreated into an unhealthy obsession with his own resume, revisiting loss after loss, tallying up failure after failure, convincing himself that this time he was done for good. My film career is not going too well, he later recalled. One day I walked into a store and saw a little bottle of Jack Daniels, and that voice, I call it the lower power, goes, "Hey, just a taste, just one." I drank it, and there was a brief moment of, "Oh, I'm okay." The instant he took that first sip, he said, "You feel warm and kind of wonderful." And then the next thing you know, it's a problem, and you're isolated. Within a week, Robin said, I was buying so many bottles that I sounded like a wind chime walking down the street. So anyway, I thought that maybe that would be kind of a different way to kind of convey a first-person account from a video. So
Okay, so so that's it. So again, just this is just me sharing with you some experimentation with trying to deliver novel content, especially having to come up with this very much in short order because of COVID. So I'm going to stop sharing and